Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Get Out of Wrap. Today I'm joined by Colleen McCann, who is the Business Development Director at HGS. Hello Colleen.
Hi, nice to be on your podcast. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem at all. We've spoken a few times about this, and I think one of the things that stuck with me that you said was there's not been enough Scottish voices on the podcast.
Yeah, you've got to get more of us on. You've got to get, that accent out there, and whether the subtitles picks me up, that's another thing. But yeah, you've got to get us on.
Well, we were addressing the balance now slightly, and I think our industry's always loved people with Scottish accents.
They have lots of call centres in Scotland, yeah, lots of customer service representatives up there.
So let's start at the beginning in terms of, everyone likes to know from the guests about their career. So you're director now at HGS, but how have you got here?
Yeah, so I actually started in marketing. So if you talk to marketers, they might say I've gone to the dark side. But basically started in marketing in Aberdeen, and rite of passage had to join the oil industry. So I worked in the oil industry for a few years in HR randomly. Wasn't for me, and then moved to Glasgow and into marketing for a tech startup. And then worked for some big players like Lockheed Martin, worked for them, again doing marketing, and then joined the contact center industry in 2019. So I've not been in the industry long, but I've done a lot in technology. Didn't really know a lot about contact center industry, customer experience, customer service. But again, I think because I'm a marketer, I love the brands. I love, how do you do it? What happens in the background? What is the ins and outs of what you do and how you look after your customers? So it just kind of all snowballed from there, really. Went into business development, really enjoy it. And again, I don't think it's a million miles away from marketing, because it's all about people. It's all about promoting yourself, your brand. It's just an extension of what I was already doing. So and joined HGS officially a year ago, a year and 2 weeks, I think I've been here now. So again, HGS, I'd kind of heard about them from the previous company I was at, but hadn't known an awful lot about them. Got an interview with Graham Brown, who's my boss, so the Chief Revenue Officer. Just seemed like a nice guy, still is a nice guy. So in case he's listening, I've got to put that in. And yeah, just a really lovely team, had great aspirations, things that they were looking to do, slightly different. They're positioning themselves differently, and we are different than other outsourcers in the market, where we look more about the digital aspect as well as CX. So how do we bring what we say bots and brains together? So how does that work? And again, from my background in technology, I really liked that approach and that angle that they were taking. So that's kind of what led me here, and the rest is history. So yeah, it's been a journey, but a really good journey. And it is exciting. It's an exciting industry because it doesn't stand still. And I think I've been in it since before COVID, now post-COVID, if you can call that's where we are at the moment. I'm not entirely sure. But again, it's just, there's nothing the same, and it does change rapidly and really quickly, which I love. I think that keeps you on your feet.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. And I think some of the listeners I know are kind of either on the phones or they're team leaders, and they might be looking and listening to people like yourself and thinking, oh yeah, I might want to get into, let's start with marketing, right? So you moved, did you say, from HR to marketing?
Yeah. So I did my degree in marketing, and then I got a placement at an oil company in Aberdeen, Total. I did communications, went back to university, finished, and then when I graduated, they didn't have anything in marketing or comms, so I went into HR. I was doing the benefits and payroll, which again, very interesting whenever you get to see what everyone gets paid. But it was great. It was a great job, great learning, but it just wasn't my passion at all.
What would you say to people then about who might be listening and saying, I'd love to get into marketing to start with? What kind
Yeah.
of steps could they take?
I would say, I think marketing's quite, I always say this to people, marketing is an art, not a science. So it's not like accountancy where 2 + 2 = 4. There's lots of different answers to marketing. So how I market or might think is the best way to market something isn't what another marketer might think. So it's really about your creative side, but not in like an arty way. It's more you come up with quick ideas, or like social media. There's lots of influencers now. Again, that's all an aspect of marketing. So I would say, really look at what you're doing on social, kind of build up your profile. A lot of times when I was recruiting for other marketers, that's what really attracted me to people. It wasn't necessarily what have you done, where have you been at university. It's how do you profile yourself? What have you done for like charities? That's amazing. That's just, it's blown up in the last 5 or 6 years, I would say. And that can really stand you out from the crowd. There's again, ways to get into marketing. Google do a lot of the Google Drive and Google Garage. So digital learning, you can then find out about how you do pay per advertisements, clicks, all that kind of things. So there's lots of free resources. So if you do want to get into it, there's lots of things out there. And then just speak to somebody. Again, I've had people approach me and ask me what's the plus and the minuses of marketing. It does look glamorous. It's not always glamorous. But again, just reach out to your network. And I think, again, what you're doing on LinkedIn marketing and connecting people, that's a fantastic way just even to have a conversation. If it leads nowhere, it leads nowhere, but it's nice to speak to people in different industries, different departments, different companies. So I'm very much a believer in the power of talking and connecting with people.
I concur, and I know firsthand because we've had quite a few chats before today. So I absolutely think some great tips that you shared there. I was interested when you said about HGS, how is it like a conscious decision to be different?
Yeah, definitely. And again, we have done quite a lot in public sector. So we've grown massively during COVID, where some organizations didn't have the same opportunities or ability to be able to do that. And we are in a position where we've got really strong backing globally, but then it allows us to form our own path and go where we want to go and where we think is the right areas to go. And I definitely think on CX and what's happening, it's not what maybe was talked about 4 or 5 years ago, where bots are taking over the call centers and we'll never need humans. It's not about that. It's about how do we use technology to then build and grow what we're trying to do. And for HGS, that is very much at the forefront of what we're trying to do. Is where does digital sit in this? Where can we use technology to get rid of things like Wizmo, where is my order? Well, that's high volume, low value. It doesn't need to go through to a human. It can be answered quicker with technology, more efficient. And again, it's being smarter about how we do CX. And it's not, I would say as well, in joining HGS, we don't have cookie cutter clients where everybody's got the same thing and everybody has to take this because that's what we sell. It's not about that. It is about how do we shape what's right for you, have those dialogues, the conversations, and then understand. And I think that's really important, is not trying to force an organization into something that just doesn't fit with them or sit with them or not what they want to do. So yes, it is a conscious decision for us, and we do want to be different, and we do believe that we are, and we're still battling through that and trying to get out into the market more and help people understand who we are and what we're standing for and what we're about.
really like the idea of thinking how best to use technology, as you say, the use of bots rather than when it was, as you're right, 4 years ago, it was they're coming, they're going to replace everything and everyone. Yeah. That's not quite the same. And do you know what? I love the acronym. That's the first time I've ever heard WISMO.
Yeah. I had to educate one of my colleagues as well on that. But yeah, but it is simple things like that where, as a shopper, I'm sure you do the same. And actually, even this morning, I got an alert from Amazon saying, "Oh, we're not able to deliver your package anymore," and it's because the package was damaged. So now, as a customer, I want to get in touch with them to say, well, if I order it again, will it not be damaged? How is this going to work? And it's kind of just dealing with the simple inquiries to then, if there is something, higher value or more complex, then it frees our agents up to deal with that. And it actually makes their job more exciting, because you don't want to have to go through your order tracking system all the time and say, yeah, it's with DPD, it's going to be there tomorrow. You don't want to have to do that. And that's kind of, mundane and, the same thing over and over again. I wouldn't like to do that in my job. So how do we make it more exciting for our agents and advisors supporting that?
And is this where the phrase, because I picked up on another phrase that you said at the start, bots and brains.
Yeah. So
you have to be careful how you say that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do. Yeah. And yes, it is from that. And it's, we've invested heavily into our digital and our technology teams. And I wouldn't say that we're the only outsourcer that has done that, but we are focusing slightly differently. And how do we bring human and technology together? And to your point, I think I read last week, there was an article came out and said, oh, actually, bots aren't going to take over the call centers. We'll always need humans. And it's like, yep, yeah, that's what we thought 4 or 5 years ago. So it's just then using technology and being at the forefront. What's coming next? So what's the next big thing? We've got bots, we've got people able to answer your chats. So what's next? What is that? And that's where we've invested to make sure we've got teams that tell us that and are looking out into the market and saying, okay, this is what's coming next, and this is the new technology, and this is how we use it, and make it more efficient for brands. And I think that's a big thing, because you don't always, if you're a brand, you don't always have that investment in the different teams, and you're also just working on your one industry. So we work across industries, which then allows us to say, well, okay, in the financial industry, this is what's happening, or in the retail, this is what's happening, or public sector. So we're able to share the best of CX across industries, and we're testing it industry wide. So it's not just in one trajectory, it is in lots of different areas.
That's great. And I guess, like you say, now you're kind of the dark side. I wouldn't say the dark side. That's kind of, we're the rebels.
Yeah.
But from where you were previously, you get to see how that's marketed as well, I guess, in terms of how do you explain sometimes the complex, like you said, your clients don't all have the same results, but you have to kind of explain that flexibility, but in a clear way. It's a challenge, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a great point, because we've got technologists in our team, and even when they speak to me about certain things, I'm like, right, okay, let's take it down a level. I don't understand what you're trying to tell me, because I don't really care what it sits on. I just want to know, what does it do? But again, like, we've got a great bid team that we work with, and we've got great marketers, so they are able to take potentially some of the complex speak and then turn it into really simple, easy to understand. This is what you buy, this is what happens, and this is what it does, and here's the benefit for you. But to your point as well, what I would class as something someone else doesn't, and we do have those instances where prospects want to spend more time and go into more detail and really understand the fundamentals of what we're trying to do and what that means for them and for their customers. And I think at the moment, I would say there's a bit of nervousness on where we're going as a country, what's happening, you know, the squeeze on consumer spending, what does that mean? What does it look like? So then it does mean, actually, if I'm going to spend money on this, I want to understand every single detail that you've got. So I would say some, you know, it's like everyday life. Some people understand different things, and you've just got to tailor that message and help the prospect or the client through. And I would say that's what my role is. It's about guiding them and being kind of their partner in this. So if they don't understand something from one of my team members, it's my responsibility to then help them understand and work with them to get through to a point where we're all on the same page and we're going for the same thing. So, you know, I think that's what I love about my role, because it does make it exciting. And it's that people engagement, and that's what I love. I am very much a people person. So, you know, you asked me this morning, was I nervous coming on to speak to you? And yeah, I was, but I know I can talk. So like, you might end up having to tell me to stop talking.
But that's our industry all over, though, isn't it? It's about the engagement between people who generally like other people.
Yeah.
It does make me laugh. I think a lot of us would have had the same experience of you when you're talking to very super bright technical people, and you're having to say, no, bring it down another level.
Yeah.
No, keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's great, because I do admire their passion. And when you get a technical person from a client side, and you know, you can tell them, right, you guys go and you work this out and you speak together, like, it is fantastic, because I think it's great for the client side as well, to kind of, again, as I was saying earlier, it's broadened that expansion of, oh, where else has this been used? What else is happening? This is what I've read and found out. And it's kind of that, you know, if you go to an event and you're networking, it's the same thing. It's just in a different process or example, which I'm all for. I think sometimes it's harder to get to that point of networking. There's a bit more of the, oh, you know, don't contact me on LinkedIn if you don't know me. And again, LinkedIn do make that difficult as well, I think. You've got to have a true connection before you reach out, or else you're viewed as spamming. So it's trying to find out, how do you get more engagement and interaction? And that was one of the things I like about your podcast, because although I'm not necessarily speaking directly to people, you still are listened to and heard by a number of other people. So if you want to reach out,
yeah, well, I would recommend it, because I've definitely benefited from knowing you. So for anyone listening, yeah, bombard Colleen. I was taken with a point you made then around, you know, the state of not just our nation, but the Western world, and the squeeze on all of us, you know, rising prices.
Yeah.
How do you think that kind of manifests itself in when potential clients are thinking about engaging with outsourcers like HGS?
Yeah, I think there's, you know, it's kind of, if someone's got a crystal ball out there, fantastic, let us know what's going to happen. But it is that kind of nervous period where, you know, I again read that we had the bumper Christmas in 2021, where people were spending so much more than they'd spent in 2020 or 2019. And then we've kind of like completely flipped that on its head and going, oh, well, actually, you might want to halt that spending, because by December, you're going to be spending £1,000 or whatever on your energy prices. So I do think in the UK, our media escalate things and make it seem worse. But I do also think we are coming into that period of what is going to happen and what does that look like. And I would say for our clients or our prospects, they are, you know, it's part of their strategy. It's what are we going to do and what does that look like? And again, when they're coming to talk to us, we have the options that you can offshore, so that does reduce your price point and what you're spending, but it doesn't diminish your quality. You still get the same level of customer experience quality. But there are other organizations that just want to keep it onshore in the UK, because the Philippines or Jamaica, that just seems like such a long way away, and it doesn't seem like it's in their control of what is happening. I would say we will start to see more of that with, you know, the minimum wage increasing and the cost of living and all of those kind of impacts happening in the UK. But I also do think that's going to happen worldwide. To your point, I don't think it will just be the Western world. I think it will be worldwide, because we've got a duty of care as well to look after our people and make sure that we are providing the right benefits and packages for them to work and support then our brand's customers. So I think it is a concern, and no one knows. I can't tell you that yes, it's going to happen, or no, it isn't going to happen, but how do we plan for it, and how can we support you if that does happen? And I think it's a contingency planning, it's the what if scenarios, and that's very much what we try and take our clients through to support them, to say, actually, something could happen tomorrow, like a lockdown. No one knew that was going to happen in March, but we managed it, we handled it, and we prepared for it as much as we could. So yeah, I think we're all in it together, aren't we? You know.
Yes, we are. What just on offshoring, would you say that there's a shift really to there's more appetite for it again?
I probably wouldn't say it's hot on the agenda at the moment, but I would say I think it's going to be. I think it's definitely going to be something that people start to look into again and see how would it work for our brand or our customers. I think we are still trying to, or brands are still trying to get out of COVID and then see what does that mean and what does it look like. You know, we're working with a client at the moment, and the data is so up and down, so they don't actually know what 2022 is going to look like, because the data that they have for the last 2 years is just almost, you can kind of get rid of it and say, like, let's ignore that. But we know it's not going to be 2019, because again, that's a completely different time period, if you like.
Yeah.
It's not where the customers are, so it's so difficult. And I think we have conversations, and I think rather than saying, yeah, let's go offshore, it's what do you want to try and achieve? What are you looking to do? Who are your customers? And what do they want from a brand like yourselves? So how do we support that? And, you know, we have got the options to go offshore. So again, this is what it looks like, and this is what it can do for you. And if you want to tick all these 4 boxes, this is where we think you should go. And if you want to not tick one but get the other 3, then you can do it in the UK. So again, I think it's just about building that solution and supporting them on what the options are, because a lot of times offshoring is not always viewed as what it is these days. You know, we've all been there. There was a lot of the Indian call centers, and a lot of people think that is what offshoring is. And you know, if you speak to somebody in the Philippines or in South Africa, most of the time your customers are unaware that they're not speaking to somebody in the UK. So again, if your customers are getting the right experience and support, then it doesn't really matter where the calls are handled or the contacts are handled from.
It's hard not to have bias, isn't it? Because I worked as an outsourcer. I worked abroad, I've lived abroad, and for me, it's always been, it's about the outcome. If the outcome as a customer isn't what you want, then you might start looking into who the outcome has come from or where.
Yeah.
If the outcome's fine, I don't care whether it comes from a mile away or the other side of the world. And I think it's quite nice to see different locations being used around the world, rather than you mentioned India. I know South Africa is a popular destination, but there are others as well, and that's I think, refreshing to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think, so Jamaica, I would love one of our clients to be going out there. I would love to be doing the site visit out there, but even just speaking to the teams, it's just such a different culture and way of life, and it's just so, it makes you feel good when you speak to them, and if that happens in an internal meeting, I can imagine what it's like for a customer. So I think there are different options and locations, and even during lockdown where we couldn't travel or we couldn't get places, they still operated, they were still there, they were still supporting. So again, it's making sure that you're working with an organization or an outsourcer like HGS that has that infrastructure where no matter what is happening in the UK or other countries, it still operates, it still supports your customers. And just your point in South Africa, I definitely think South Africa is the go-to location at the moment, which I can understand the reasons why, but I don't think, back to what I said earlier, I don't think it's a one size fits all. So you can't say, oh, you're looking to offshore, right, South Africa is brilliant for you, because there's elements that I've seen in South Africa where complex inquiries aren't handled the same way or to the same level where it potentially is in the likes of the Philippines, or where sales can be handled really well in Jamaica. They're very much a competitive culture and they like to win, they like to do things and succeed. So again, there's locations that work, and I think it's going back to your client and understanding what their challenges are to then support them, and this is the best solution. This isn't just me shoehorning you because this works for what we are trying to do. But yeah.
If there were potential clients listening that maybe haven't outsourced before, what sort of process or what kind of considerations should they be making before they start to search?
Yeah, and again, I think even the outsourcing, so the word outsourcing, and I think I was saying to you, I was in London this week and we were chatting to a client that we're onboarding at the moment, and they said this isn't about outsourcing, this is about us finding a partner that can provide services that we can't internally. And it is that partnership approach. And I very much think it's not about you saying, you take our customer experience, you manage it, and we'll be on top of you if it goes red, or if you're green, great. It's not about that. It is very much the partnership and how do we work together as a team and being an extension of what they can do. And I think that would be my first thing, is trying to understand what is outsourcing and what do you want it to be for you. Because again, we were at an event earlier this year, and somebody said to me, oh, we will never outsource because you will take our jobs. And again, it's not about that. So I think there's a big misconception about what outsourcing is and potentially what it used to be versus what it is now and how it can support. And actually it doesn't even mean about taking any of the in-house roles. It could be an extension of the in-house team, or one of your teams gets outsourced. But I would speak to, if you can, other brands in your industry or organizations not in your industry that have outsourced before. What's the plus points, the cons, what are the things you should watch out for? I would kind of try and do a bit of due diligence in that sense, because that's the best way to find out what are you going into, what does this look like. And I would also speak to outsourcers. So yes, like I'm business development director, my role is about selling, but it's not about, as I've said, shoehorning. So we're also here to have the conversation and help you and support you and give you the advice, show you what our contact centers look like, what actually happens. So again, if you are in a situation where you haven't done it before, you need to then explore and then find out, how do you do it? It's like buying a car. You want a red car that goes 0 to 60 in 3 minutes. That's great. Or do you want it in 3 seconds? So it's then you shop around, you go to car dealerships, you have a look at different cars, you test drive, And I would definitely recommend do the same thing. It's find out, speak to people, listen to things like this. What's the benefit of doing it? And what are your challenges and your pain points at the moment? So I think if you identify that and you're clear, then you know what you need and you know what you're good at. So again, it's our job to build that solution around what you've told us. And sometimes it's not right for you. So again, you don't know until you speak to people and find out. And I would definitely recommend just chat to somebody, go on LinkedIn, find somebody, speak to different brands. There's a lot of outsourcers out there that they've got logos on their websites. So again, just target those brands and ask them, how is this going? Is it right? Would you do it again? I think that's the best way to do it.
You make so many good points there. One of the ones I think quite early on you said was around, it's powerful. Language is so powerful, and the kind of meaning that we attach to words, because like you, I've even had direction in previous companies around, we prefer if we don't use the word outsourcing. And that kind of I was smiling because when you said you're onboarding a new client at the moment, and someone said it's kind of a partnership and want to utilize your expertise. Was the marketeer in you thinking that I just need to video you saying that?
Yeah. I've done that so many times actually in meetings, and I've sent it to marketing, and I'm like, we need to get this signed off. This is a great quote. So, and we have done that. And again, but that's where, the marketer in me, I get excited about things like that. And it is very much, it's where people are honest. Then you get the real true, rather than me writing a quote saying, yeah, this was fantastic and HGS did a great job. That's boring. They want to hear what this person would tell you if you were to go and speak to them. And that's where I think the brilliant marketing comes to light, is where you take an honest representation of somebody and then you just transcribe that back to them and say, okay, can we use this? So yeah.
It's a shame, isn't it, that sometimes the connotations associated with terminology stop people from finding a perfect solution for them. Because I know, even this week, just speaking to people in my network who are having real challenges, and they don't have the internal expertise themselves to resolve them. And again, like you say, it's take off the table some of the doom and gloom around, well, if I do go to someone else, these people in my team are going to go. Well, no, not necessarily, because they're not even the ones you're tasking with solving the problem. But I will always say, and I had this conversation this week, I said, you can't train. One of the ways to train up your team to be able to do this is to outsource and go and find someone who's done this and solved this problem 50 times. Maybe in 20 different industries, so they've learned a hell of a lot. Go and use an outsourcer. And the response was, oh. And I said, you genuinely have nothing to lose, and that it's not. Your point is really key. It is partners with experts. You're partnering with experts. You can learn. They can absolutely improve your whatever it is you're looking to, CX, CSAT results, whatever, reduce complaints, because they've done it before. And like I say, I know I am biased because I did that. I was in an outsourcer for a while, a long time. And something else you said earlier as well, but we were competitive. We wanted to do well because we knew it's a competitive market, which meant we delivered more and more and more for our clients. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah. And again, I think, on your point of it's kind of a dirty word sometimes, outsourcing. And even my job title, business development director, people would be more likely to speak to me if my job title was marketing director than it is currently. And again, I think business development, sales director, whatever you want to call it, we get tarnished with this idea of pinstripe suit and coming in and just trying to sell. And it's not about that. And yes, I've got targets, and yes, I've got a role to play, but I am very much about what's your problem, how can we help, and how do we work with you? And if it's not right, if we're not the right partners for you, then that's life. You know, we don't win everything and we can't support everyone, but I'd rather be able to help somebody and point them in the right direction than not be of use to them.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And it is an interesting point again around how titles can make people go, oh God.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And you know, I used to be like, oh, somebody's trying to sell me something. And now I am very much more, I'll reply and say, thanks so much for contacting me. This doesn't work. Or I'm not the right person. Speak to this person. And you are more likely to respond because you know what it's like. You know, it's kind of like whenever you're reaching out for somebody for a date and you're left hanging for ages. Nobody likes being ghosted. So just have the common courtesy of coming back.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, we all want constructive criticism. We just want honesty, don't we?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing, you know, saying no or saying thanks for reaching out, but that's not relevant. Like, that's okay. And again, you know, people are super busy and I understand that as well. So, you know, I do think there's good things on LinkedIn and there's flaws on LinkedIn, but hopefully as what it's trying to do develops, then there's other things like, you know, I know there's certain badges you can put on, like I'm open to inquiries and closed to inquiries, but again, it's just making it aware and what do you want to try and get. And a lot of people share a lot, you know, in their bios on LinkedIn. So again, it's great to find out about what else is happening in the market and what people are trying to do and where they're trying to go.
I think I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of it is if on LinkedIn someone connects with you and then sends a long sales message as their first message, and it shows that they haven't read anything about you or where you work or what you do. You said something then around it feels like we're all busier than we've ever been.
Yeah.
And time is a huge resource. So it can actually irritate when you think I've connected with someone and the first thing they're doing is sending me a message about something totally inappropriate to me or to the company that I work for. It's lazy on their part, and that's not. But that for me isn't business development. I think business development is about relationships and again, you know, being open and having honest sort of conversations, because there isn't anything wrong with saying there isn't anything where we can work together right now, but let's stay in touch. I think those kind of we all need that. That's what our community is about.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And you know, I've had people reach out to me saying, oh, we think you could use this tool in your marketing team. And I'm like, well, I've not worked in marketing for however many years. So again, it's to your point of like, do your research, and that's what supports. And I think there is a difference between business development and sales, and business development is very much about developing where we're going as a business by bringing in new opportunities, but it's developing those relationships as well. So it is having those conversations. And I would like to think that I'm not always trying to sell, it's just trying to find out. And that's where, again, the marketer in me, I love understanding the background of brands, especially if I buy and purchase and I am a customer. I love that. Like, how do you do it? How do you track it? What's great? What do your customers come to say to you? Because I know what I say. So again, it's just trying to find out those like nuances and then relating it back. And, you know, if I have a conversation that's with a brand that I buy from or, you know, admire, that's fantastic. And it goes nowhere. That's great for me. Like, I love that. And on to the next, you know, so it's a good conversation. And, you know, one of your points and something that you try and do in the industry is we do move around. So if you can build up your connections and your network, then it's easier at that time that you are looking to move around, or you're in the unfortunate situation where you have to look for something, then it supports you in being able to do that and finding out, where do I want to go? What do I want to do?
We're very similar, because I've, again, from working as an outsourcer and now where I am, we have loads of different brands, and you'll contact the people on that team and say what they like, because you're just interested. And we had people want to move teams because they they loved the retailer or the fashion brand or whoever it was, and just that kind of interest. It is a great industry to be in. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like a behind the scenes. I could imagine, like, you know, in like Hollywood, it's like that style of here's a movie set, but here's behind the scenes, and it's that style of what actually happens. How does it work? Yeah, I really like that. And you know, I think there's lots of organizations that get it right, and like Pets at Home, I think they're top of the list on CX, which they are great, but they don't always, there's always room for improvement, and there's always, how do I learn, what can I do next that helps me get to that next point of where I'm trying to go, and what I can do for CX as well. So that's the bit that I'm always interested in, like, okay, Pets at Home, why are you top? Like, how does this work? And I got a dog through lockdown, I think, like everyone else in the country, and you know, signed him up for his wee VIP club, and it is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really good CX, but there's so many other brands that could do the same with the whole loyalty program, and you know, I think there's a lot of learnings, even if you're not in like the pet industry. There's still things you can take from that and learn about what can we do for CX. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I'm a consumer, so that's how I learn what is good CX, what is happening in the market. And you know, unless you're shopping and you're engaging, you won't keep ahead. And as a business, you won't then know, right, well, we should look at this. Pets at Home did this. How could we do that? How do we bring it in? You know, that's what I love. It's the brainstorming, it's understanding where do we go next with it. And I think, you know, again, what we talked about earlier, that's what Bots and Brains is. You know, it's how do we use the tech and the cool stuff to then support our agents, but also make it a great experience for the customer.
I love that. Well, I've got to ask then, so what type of dog? How old?
It's a cockapoo, and he's 7 months old. But he doesn't like me very much at the moment because he went into the vets yesterday to get neutered. So
really?
he's feeling a bit sorry for himself today.
What's his name?
Fergal. A wee Irish name. Yeah.
Lovely. My dog's 7 months old, and we took him to the vet on Tuesday. He goes to this like daycare once a week, and I'm going to keep this email because the title was Hugo-mounting, and they said that he's on report now. That means if he does it again, they won't let him in. But the vet said they wouldn't neuter him until he's at least a year.
Yeah, so some vets have said that, and then others, I think it depends on your veterinary practice, because I did do research on it, because I was like, I mean, I don't want to be cruel and do it early, but it's also fine, you know. And they said that's anything after 6 months, I believe you can get it done, or that's what they recommend.
Fergal's in a mood with you.
He is. He's feeling sorry for himself with a wee like onesie pajama suit on, so he can't get near anything. But yeah,
but it's a really good point about a lot of things we've spoken about then, because by you mentioning Pets at Home, the VIP club, I thought the same thing, and we've made that connection even more about, you know, something like that. That's what business development is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. And I think even, you know, it's just connecting over similar things. And, you know, I met another lady at one of the events recently, and we connected, and it was like, I could actually chat to you, and she doesn't have any opportunities, but it's just nice to kind of keep in touch. And again, it's like a luxury brand, and I'm really excited to see, she's invited us to come and see their contact center, and I really want to see behind the scenes, like what happens, you know. And I think it's just, even if there's not that opportunity per se, it's still that connection, and it's the, what are you doing and how do you differentiate, and vice versa. So she might want to ask us, what are our brands doing? How are we supporting? What's the next big thing? And I think again, we're hosting a roundtable at the start of May, and it's just getting people together to talk about exactly what we talked about earlier on the you know, the cost of living and what is coming or potentially coming. So what does that mean for CX and customers, and does CX need to then be at the forefront, because that's how you're going to drive people to buy from you and create loyal customers, or actually we don't have the money available to spend on CX, so we're just going to have to ride the wave. Like, it's finding out what does that look like, and I think that's where it's great when you get all the brands together and actually they start to realize, okay, you're in a completely different industry from me or a different market, but we've got the same problem. And that's, you know, we're not boutique industry. We don't specialize in just one stream, like retail or financial services. We are across industries. And I know that there's some organizations that want that specific boutique focus. And there's others that actually like, well, okay, yeah, that company has got the same challenges as me, and you're telling me that you were able to fix it. So I think it's, again, to your point about companies not outsourcing before, it's not necessarily just what's happening in your industry, because yes, you want to be either keeping up or ahead of the competition, but then what are other industries doing that you can learn from to then let you leapfrog, so you're miles ahead of them. And I think that's where the beauty of understanding what is happening helps. And again, globally, you know, global clients, they do things differently than what we do in the UK, but vice versa, we're ahead in the UK than some of our other global clients. So to me, it's just really interesting.
And it's just having a growth mindset, I think, isn't it? It's around always searching, always learning.
Yeah.
The round table event that you mentioned sounds great. Will you be sharing the outputs of that?
Yes, we will be. I spoke to our marketing team yesterday, so we are going to be sharing that in whether it's a white paper or mini blog series. But yeah, we will be sharing what that is, because I think it's relevant to so many at the moment, and it's not necessarily the right answers, but it's an insight into what other brands and organizations are doing. So yeah, definitely, I think look out for that. Keep coming on our website.
Well, maybe we could do another one of these.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be good as well. Yeah,
We
you
could
could
do
even get my boss Graham on. He loves to chat as well. So
yeah, let's do it. And I feel like I want to check back in with Fergal as well.
yeah, I'll update it on LinkedIn. I'll send you a pic. I mean,
Okay,
he'll
well.
be fine. So I mean, it's this thing, oh, don't let them jump. Well, I mean, how do you stop a 7-month-old puppy jumping? But
Yes.
He's been fine so far. But yeah, today I think it'll get harder. I think as he gets better, it'll get harder to keep him calm.
Well, it's funny. I always kind of wear black hoodies, I guess, but I had to change my other one because I just finished the walk before this, and it had big paw marks on it where Hugo had been jumping up. So I feel your pain.
Oh no, but it's great. I think, you know, on the whole dog ownership, and it just gives you that time where you've got to get out. And I think, like, creative minds, and you have a lot going on in your day-to-day life, so getting that fresh air and just forcing yourself to go out, even if it's like a 20-minute walk, it's that time away from your desk where you go, okay, I know what I want to do and I know what I'm trying to achieve. And it just gives you that you know, away from everything, no other environments except for calling your dog back whenever he's running away. You know, it just allows you that bit of peace of mind to really focus on what you're trying to do. And any bad day, I think, you know, you can take that away instantly with a walk. So
I love that, because it's I said to someone else the other day, mindfulness is whatever you want it to be, if it means that you're just focused on one thing.
Yeah.
So because our minds are all so busy, like you say, for me, when I'm walking with Hugo, I'm just focused on him.
Yeah.
And that I'm outdoors, I'm focused on him, and it does certainly get you up in the morning when you might not want to, but I couldn't agree more. It is a nice 30-minute, 40-minute kind of just escape.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, we're working from home, and, you know, because I am a people person, I think I need that engagement and the energy from other people to then help me. And we have got a great team, and we've got great communication methods. So we do keep in touch, which then makes it feel like, well, actually, if I was in the office, I'd be going to get a cup of tea and I'd be going past somebody's desk. So it's no different really to that. It's just adapting what you're trying to do. And one of my other colleagues, she talks about commuting to work. So she'll go out for a walk in the morning and a walk at night to make it like she's commuting. And that's just
brilliant.
her kind of headspace time. So it's just working out what works for you and making it work and making your environment a positive environment to be working in and supporting and coming up with those creative ideas as well.
Well, Colleen McCann from HGS, it's been great to talk to you. I know you're actually, you have to go and talk to a client now, don't you?
I do, yeah. Job never stops, Martin, never stops.
But you love it. You can tell from the smile on your face.
Yeah, I definitely do. No, I love it. And it was really great to chat to you. It was good. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
No, thanks for coming. It's been brilliant. So, Colleen, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye.